Firm foundation.
I'm gonna try
You are
again. Let me know if you can
opting
hear
to
it.
be a called America was doomed from its inception. How do you build a nation? Killing the native people. How do you build a nation? Bringing a whole people out of Africa to America to be made slaves. This is your foundation. The world is looking at a country going to hell. You are opting to be a part of that is unraveling right in front of your eyes. You see the country cascading downward. Why do you want to get into something that is coming to an end? America was not built on a firm foundation. The nation called America was doomed from its inception. How do you build a nation? Killing the native people. How do you build a nation? Bringing a whole people out of Africa to America to be made slaves. This is your foundation. The world is looking at a country going to hell. You are opting to be a part of that is unraveling right in front of your eyes. You see the country cascading downward. Why do you want to get into something that is coming to an end?
All right. So, with that, we're going to go ahead and open today up in prayer. Everyone watching, you can bow your heads or you can do prayer however you would like. Attention prayer. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sister Nadira.
Yes, sir. Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. I would love to greet you all with the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum. I am honored to be the host and moderator for today's event. I would love to welcome everyone to the first Youth in Peril, the Need for Justice panel discussion. It is going to be an amazing day. I am so blessed to be a part of this event. I am looking at all the beautiful faces of the amazing panel that we have. And I'm so excited to introduce everyone. So my name is Sister Nadira Muhammad. I am from Charlotte, North Carolina. I am a freshman at North Carolina A&T, and I would love to get into this. So let's go ahead and get into our panel, and I would love to introduce everyone. So we are going to start with Brother Tariq Muhammad, and we're going to go down the line from there. So Brother Tariq.
Yes, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I appreciate the opportunity to join the panel. I'm filling in for the other Brother Tariq. But first of all, my name is Brother Tariq Muhammad. I'm originally from Harlem, New York. I currently reside in Richmond, Virginia. I'm a biomedical research scientist with a concentration in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is pretty much the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. I also have a startup called Original Man Scientific, where I do most of my research in conjunction with different types of partnerships and what have you, and also represent the Ministry of Science and Technology. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Next, we have Sister Savage.
Peace and greetings. Assalamu alaikum. First, I'd like to thank you all for having me. Thank Brother Farad for the invitation. My name is Sabbath Muhammad. I am formerly from Columbus, Georgia. However, I'm currently in College Park, Georgia, upon moving. I'm an elementary school educator, or elementary level educator, founder, owner, dean, and headmaster of the Homeschoolers Society, an online Black-owned school and educational program. So an introduction for that. When I was 13, I literally was on my prayer rug and I was bawling in tears. And I made a promise to Master Father Muhammad that I told him I will make a school for you. And at the time, having no desire at all to be in the education field. But, at the time I wanted to be an agricultural scientist. But I promised him, out of seeing the pain that my peers are going through in so many different ways. So this year, by the grace and mercy of Allah, 2020 marks the year that promise was able to come into fruition.
Crazy.
Assalamualaikum, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and greetings to everyone who's joining us. I'd like to thank you all for the invitation, and also thank the panelists for being here with me today. My name is Sister Nafisa Muhammad. I'm originally from Muhammad's Mosque number 25 in Newark, New Jersey, currently at Muhammad's Mosque number 6 in Baltimore, Maryland. I work in higher education and have worked in higher education for the past 6 years, I believe. But I am currently in grad school, inshallah, in my last year of grad school at Johns Hopkins University, working on my master's in clinical mental health counseling. I've had a passion for mental health since I was probably a teenager. I've done a lot of volunteer work, and currently I'm actually running a group for Black men and women called Melanin Minds, where I'm trying to just help everyone, kind of overcome the challenges that come with being a Black person in America. So that's me.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came in the person of Master Prophet Muhammad. I further bear witness that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is his messenger, and that the Honorable Minister Farrakhan is their divine reminder and Messiah in our midst. I'm thankful to be invited on the show, and I'm honored to be on this panel with such esteemed, great people who are doing great things. My name is Shahid Muhammad. I graduated in 2016 with my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Morgan State University with a concentration in power and energy. But as Brother Tariq knows, really anything in regards to science and technology that's geared toward building a nation, I'm into and I'm interested in. So I'm just honored to be on the show and looking to help out however I can.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much, brother Shahid. Brother Tariq, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Brother Tariq Muhammad. I'm originally from Harlem, New York. I currently reside in Richmond, Virginia. I'm a biomedical research scientist with a concentration in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. I'm also the COO of Original Man Scientific, which is a research and development startup geared to help young people, or anyone for that matter, develop their ideas from start to finish. And I also represent the Ministry of Science and Technology. Happy to be here.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, brother Farad.
Yes, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum to everyone watching, and peace and blessings for those of you all who don't know what assalamu alaikum means. It's only Arabic for peace be unto you. My name is Brother Farad Muhammad. I am 20 years of age, out of Chicago, Illinois, and I'm a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in his class of ministry here in Chicago. And in terms of my personal life, I am starting to get into different investment fields from option stocks to the foreign exchange market, and soon to be the trucking industry. So inshallah, soon, man, I'll be able to produce some valuable things for my nation.
Praise be to Allah. I appreciate all of you taking your time to be here. Thank you so much. Your introductions were wonderful. Now we will be moving into the next part of our discussion in our session. Brother Farad has a small presentation for us today. He's going to dig deeper into the discussion of separation and justice in America, and especially dealing with our youth today. So Brother Farad, when you are ready, please take it away.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. Thank you. So once again, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is but one God, the one true and living God, who we know to be Master Fard Muhammad. And I furthermore bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger, and that we have one who is amongst us today, who is a beautiful reminder, guide, warner, and the personal Jesus of my life. And that's none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I would like to greet all listening and all viewing in the greeting words of peace and of paradise, as we said in the original tongue of Arabic. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir.
Today, I'm very grateful, thankful, and honored for every panelist present here today and every viewer watching here today, because this is something that has been in the works for a very long time. Starting really back in October and November, from inspiration from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, it's been something that's been yearning not only in the heart of myself, but in the hearts of many other youth across the nation. And so I want to thank those youth as well that have assisted previously. Off the top of my head, we have Sister Ayana from Louisville, Kentucky. We have Brother Jair from Chicago, Illinois. We have Brother LaRue from San Francisco, California. We have Sister Miaya from Indianapolis. We have Sister Naja from Indianapolis as well, and Sister Naja Anissa from Houston. I thank Allah for those individuals and every individual present here today, because this would not be a reality. However, this reality was brought up out of something that was greater than us as individuals. And it's something greater than the agenda that most others may say they possess. And today, inshallah, with the help of Allah, I pray that everyone watching will get something out of this beautiful, beautiful panel presentation, because as we're taught in the Nation of Islam, there's only one reality after, this world falls, or even in the process of the falling of this world, and that's separation. Separation is the order of the day. If no other conversation today or any other day is not leading towards separation, then it's a conversation that does not need to be had. Because when we look at the state and affairs of this world in America, this world is a world that's falling day by day. America is a country that's falling day by day. We see it every moment that we look outside, from the most recent situation that happened with our sister Breonna Taylor. That was something that shook not only America, but it shook the world. I personally was blessed to be down in Louisville. The word blessed is interesting, but I was blessed to be down in Louisville about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was there for a month with the family of Breonna Taylor, Sister Tamika Mallory, one of our best freedom fighters that we have, Brother Myson, and many others. But to be on ground zero in the real, quote unquote, gutter or the heart of our people's misery in this country is something that you can't compare to, and it can only make you to reflect upon what comes next. And especially after there's been so many marches, so many protests calling for justice, and we get the result, or we get what happened the other day on CNN or across all news stations with the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, only indicting one officer for really shots that didn't even count towards our sister Breonna. Those gunshots that were fired was affecting the neighbors in their peace, and so that was the indictment for our brother. I say him a brother because of his skin color, but in reality, in this day and time, we're taught that anyone can turn hypocrite overnight, and we just saw a demonstration of that very easily with Brother Daniel Cameron. So I'm saying all of this to say that my teacher had once taught in the book of Isaiah that it says, judgment is turned away backward, and justice standeth afar off. For truth has fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter. If truth has fallen in the streets, then what left is there to do? If the actual facts of the situation uphold itself in every instance of injustice that we've been faced, then what else is there for us to do? Especially as youth, because we're tired, we're dissatisfied. The world is in a state of 100% dissatisfaction. So something has to give, something has to change. And we can't just keep demanding it. We have to make that change. And so if truth has fallen in the streets and equity is afar off, what then can we do? The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we have to resort to something that is more effective. Well, what is more effective during this time? Most of us, Black people in America, when we see such things and we see the protesting and whatnot, we'll say our words towards it if we're not for it, or we'll go out and get with it. However, we've protested and picketed and marched for so many years, but what has it gotten us? Right up here to today, which it isn't necessarily the best place for our people to be. So I propose the solution to you all, and I propose this solution with the help of these other great panelists today. Separate. Because if we do not make plans to separate, then we do not make plans to survive for tomorrow. Because we're so stuck looking into yesterday, in which if we continue to look into yesterday, then we'll end up dying today. And we're seeing it happen now. In the protest that happened in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I believe, from the shooting of our brother Jacob Blake, you had a Caucasian male shoot 2 other individuals because they were out there protesting and marching for yesterday. But that is not the plan for today. They say that time dictates agenda. So what is the agenda for today if we now know the time? We have to not only what they say defund the police, but we have to reform this entire system of government with a new government that's built from the ground up on the foundation of righteousness and firm character. Because if we look back to the beginning of this government and we look back to the beginning of this country and the world, it has been nothing but wickedness. So we ask you today to hear our words, to hear our plea, because trust me, if we as a people don't, then we're going to fall very quickly, susceptible to the same things that the enemy is getting hit with now. And the scriptures spoke of a time in which this country will be curtailed on both sides, one by fire and one by water. Look at the recent news. You have the entire state of California on fire, and you look onto the East Coast and you have them getting hit with hurricanes. This is a time that only could have been dictated 25,000 years ago. But we can get ahead of the game. We as youth have the answer in our spirit. However, we just have to move on it, and we have to make that change, because the time is now. And if we wait any longer, we're going to be a jacked up people. And with that being said, I'll leave you all as I came in the greeting words of peace and of paradise. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam, sir. Thank you so much. Praise be to Allah. That was beautiful, well said. And it touched on many things that I believe our people, especially young people, need to hear. So I will put us in the position to move on deeper into our panel discussion. We will get ready to answer some questions. So bear with me 1 second while I put us back into panel mode. There we go. So one more time, I want to say thank you for being here. There we go. So we are all ready to begin our panel discussion. For those watching in our audience, whether via Facebook or via YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in, and you definitely are allowed to give us questions or any comments or concerns. We love to hear them, and we will gladly answer them while we go in with our discussion. Now, the first question of our discussion will be, so looking at America today and the condition of our people, how would you all say, what are your thoughts on 2020 so far, how this year has been, looking at America today and the different things that as a people we are going through? How is your 2020 going, and what are your viewpoints on it so far? And anyone can answer at any time.
Well, I'll go ahead and start, Brother Grace and Mercy of Allah. Firstly, in the name of Allah, Next and Merciful, I brought and said there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger. I'd like to greet you all and all of our viewers and greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. So, praise be to Allah. I was studying my answer by the will and grace and mercy of Allah is based upon the criterion, as well as for those who join the National Study Group that Sister Ava hosts on Zoom every Friday, based upon those as well. And so if we study the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's letter, I want to say in Study Guide 7, it's either 16 or 17. And he talks about in that letter, he says that we as a people are looking for need, and I'm paraphrasing, are looking for need and are waiting on 100% dissatisfaction. And then he talks about the results of 100% dissatisfaction and how we're not dissatisfied. Now, that was in the 1980s. Here in 2020, when he gave the criterion, this was the first time in history that he has ever pronounced we are now 100% dissatisfied. So that is showing a change in the environmental structure of every people on the earth, whether you are Black, white, poor white, as the messenger says, you are Latino, you are Hispanic, you are Asian, whatever your background is, that shows how change has been established. So in 2020, where Allah, he's ooh, I'm pretty sure we can all go this a little bit 2020. But where Allah has taken us as individuals and as a nation, and he has forced a field of my will at this time, because he gives us a permissive will. He has his active and his permissive will. This year, can't nobody do nothing. To be a little, silly with it, but in all seriousness, to be stuck at home, to be taken from your job, to be taken away from, the physical mosque. And that only goes back to what Mother Tanetta said. She said, we all, every Muslim's goal is to strive to go to Mecca for Hajj. But what good is going to Hajj, going to Mecca, if we're going to come back and have a whorish mentality when we come back? There's no good in it. So the real Hajj is within us. Even though the mosques are closed, Allah is showing us that the real mosque should be within us. So Allah is really forcing at this time. He's playing no games with us. These are the last, as Brother Nori says, seconds, milliseconds, really. He's playing no games with us. We're at a time where Allah is forcing, whether we want it or not. And if we don't want it, I know the minister feels sorry for us. I don't want to say I feel, because I have nothing to say. If we want it, these are the last seconds. So Allah is forcing a new world to come upon us.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. I definitely feel that as a people, you touched on being dissatisfied in all races, and that is very true. And in 2020, so much has happened, and a lot of people focus on the negative. But for me, there has been some positive, but the biggest positive or good thing that came out of 2020 is the realization of the time that is happening and that is amongst us. And it's a time for change, and it's a time for us to realize what is going on and that we need to do something different, because even though we are dissatisfied, how are we going to get out of that dissatisfaction? So yes, I definitely agree. Would anyone else like to touch on that question?
Assalamu alaikum. Oh, no, go ahead, sister.
I feel like I keep doing that, interrupting people. I'm sorry. I was just going to add to that and saying that for me personally, I feel that 2020 has been both a blessing and a curse, but more so it's been a lesson overall. I mean, we've lost a lot of great people, a lot of great believers. And, my condolences goes out to each of their family members, and my prayers are with the people who are still, trying to overcome the virus for those who have contracted it. But one thing that this pandemic, which has taken up most of 2020, has given us is really just a moment to pause. And to be quite honest, that moment of pausing, a lot of people are losing their minds, like literally. We're an on the go type of people, we're constantly moving. So to be forced to sit at home and be alone with your thoughts and be alone with your family members. I mean, it's driven a lot of people over the edge at this point. That's why you see such an increase in drug use. And I mean like hardcore drugs, more people are using during this time. There's an increased rate of death in the Black community because of the coronavirus. There's an increased rate of domestic violence, of unemployment, of suicide. And it's as if the world is like literally being set up in flames right now. And it's heartbreaking. And I know that a lot of people have been reaching out to me personally for counseling services than ever before. And Black therapists in particularly, we're almost overwhelmed. It's like there's not enough of us to try to help all of the people who are coming to us in this point in time, because we're sitting here trying to balance, the world and everything that we're going through, but also simultaneously hold a space for the Black people who are suffering in the world right now. And you just see that more and more. They said 2020 would be the year of vision, and I feel that it's been just that. People are seeing more clearly. They're becoming more aware of not just the injustice in society, but also becoming more aware of themselves and the demons and the battles that we are all facing. That's kind of, just brewing within us. Again, we've been forced into a space where we can't escape ourselves. So we have no choice but to sit here and try to deal with our own demons.
That's right.
So it's definitely been hard in that aspect. But on the other side of that, I feel that a lot of greatness has also been produced during this time of pausing. You see a lot of Black-owned businesses showing up, and you see people, supporting one another, and just really trying to come together. And it's a beautiful thing to see, because in this day and time, that's what's going to save us. That's what it's going to take for us to survive is a sense of unity. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. For me, I want to lift a few words from the opening video that we played as an introduction. And he said that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that this nation was doomed from its inception. And he said that we are opting to be a part of that which is cascading downward. So the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that justice is a principle of fair dealing. It is a law that distinguishes between right and wrong. We know that we live in a universe of cause and effect. So when something is put out, there is a result of that. So in Message to the Black Man on page 302, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes that America is in for much trouble. As the Holy Quran says, one calamity followed by another until she is destroyed for her evils done to her slaves. These calamities consist of all sorts of confusion and disagreement between the people and the heads of their governments. So we know that in the Criterion speech given by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on July 4th, he elucidated the fact that this virus that we're seeing is actually a pestilence, a plague from heaven. He said that it didn't come from Fort Detrick, Maryland. It didn't come from Wuhan, China. Even though those who conspire may have played their parts, ultimately this is a pestilence from Allah God. But also in this text in page 302, he states that the calamities are not just weather phenomena such as earthquakes or hurricanes, but the calamities also come as confusion between the people and the heads of government. And that is what we have seen throughout 2020. We've seen people in an uproar, people fighting back against the government because of the injustice that the government has done towards its citizens and towards the earth. So 2020 for me has been a year in which we've now seen the justice come into reality. You cannot build a world based off of iniquity that will last forever. And the foundation of America is slavery. The foundation of America is genocide. So we as youth, we as this, I'm 25 now, right? And time moves by very fast. We have to think, even though we are young, we got to be thinking of holding the flag in our time period and making a way for those that will come after us, because life is very short. So we cannot opt to be a part of that which was doomed to fall for its inception. We have to be willing now to make a better world. So as this world is coming down, as the panelists before me stated, there's a new world of righteousness coming up, and that is what we should be focused on. Qualifying ourselves to build a better world, as we've seen a world based off evil is doomed to fail.
Yes, sir. That was powerful. I thank you all for answering that question. Brother Tariq or Brother Fraud, would you like to add on to that?
Yes, ma'am. Can you repeat the question, because I was going in and out?
Yes, sir. The question was, looking at America today and the condition of our people, how would you reflect on 2020? How do you view 2020 so far with everything that is going on, especially to our people?
Right. Well, a lot of our people, and you can see this on social media alone, a lot of our people are pretty much cussing or rejecting the year of 2020. Like 2020 is the worst year that ever took place. For some people, this is the worst year they've ever seen in their lifetime. So if we understand that we can't be upset at the year. The thing we should be upset at is the things that it takes for us to come to this point. Those are the things that we should be addressing. When you look at the situation with Breonna Taylor, you know, her murder took place 6-7 months ago, and we are now hearing some type of verdict for her murder. The mere fact that it took 7 months for it to get to this point, those are the issues that we should be focusing on, not so much, and you know, I was just to kind of backtrack a little bit. I was talking to a friend about the benefits and the pros and cons of the pandemic, the bad things that came from it, and the good things that came from it. And just to kind of come off of what Brother Shahi was saying about one calamity after another, if you really think about it, the coronavirus pandemic is the low end of what Allah can do. This doesn't even scratch the surface of the punishment that Allah is going to bring on this country. So I think that we as the people should really take this time, as Sister Nafisa was saying, about self-reflection and taking the time to be in your homes and understand exactly what is going on and how it benefits you. You can truly understand that this pandemic is not only a pestilence from heaven, but it's a low scale judgment from Allah. Because the things that He can do, this is nothing. So I think we should be grateful and blessed that He is giving us some type of way to not only giving us a way to now He can punish America, but also give us the opportunity to self-reflect. So I think we should just do as Sister Nafisa was saying, and just take that time to go into self and understand what I need to do to make myself better, so that my community as a whole can become better. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, sir, you did. You did a wonderful job answering that. And I did want to touch on one thing that you said, speaking of how instead of blaming the year, we need to look at what actually is happening. And I believe that sometimes as a people, we tend to try to blame other things that are going on instead of just getting at what the actual issue or what the cause of it is. And the reflecting on actually ourselves, like what are we doing to fix the problem? It is so easy to pinpoint or blame the year or blame other people for our problems instead of just trying to fix it ourselves. So thank you for your answer. That was very helpful, and I really appreciate that response. Brother Farad, would you like to add on to that?
There's not too much I can add on that these panelists and beautiful individuals haven't already touched on, but just edifying what they were saying, because everything was right and exact. This year has been a year of reflection, but not only just reflection, but it's also been a year of manifestation, because during this time, all of our faults or shortcomings have been made manifest in some way, shape, or form for us to reflect. But not just in that facet, you have, you know, the aspect of manifestation in which for so long we've wanted to do certain things, and for so long we've wanted to eat healthy. For so long we've wanted to start a business. For so long we wanted to do this, for that, or do that. But this time in particular is a time like no other, in which Allah has literally sat us down and forced us to reflect and say, there is no more I want to do. There is no promise for tomorrow. And you just made it through the yesterday into today. So now is your time to sit down and get it done. And that has been one of my biggest takeaways from 2020 far. Man, life is so short. Life is so valuable. It makes me to think of the story that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan tells when he said some of the most valuable gifts he's ever received is the 2 urns of 2 dead parents, their ashes. And it makes him to think of himself and how finite he is. The flesh can only last for so long, but the spirit of what we do and how we do it will last for eternity. So for this time, in 2020 and beyond, we have to sit down and reflect not only upon ourselves, but how we treat one another, because we don't know if tomorrow we'll see that individual. How are we treating our business? Because just quick, we've seen how fast looting and rioting can turn a business from going all the way up at the top of the market to all the way down to the bottom. So how are we going to treat ourselves as individuals? Because that's the basis of everything. You can't build a community or a society without individuals. So it first starts with the self-reflection, and I thank Allah God for this beautiful but also harsh year of 2020 because it's something that was needed to shock us out of our apathy.
Thank you. Thank you all for those answers. They were wonderful and very insightful. The reflection of 2020 kind of brings me into my next question, which is with growing tensions here in America and all over the world about injustice, which are cases like Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and other cases and injustices in our country and all over the world, why do you think the affairs of this country and in the world are in the state that it is today? Why is the country in the state that it is in today? How did we get here? And reflecting on all the different injustices and all the things that are going on in our society that impact our people and other groups of people, how is the country in the way that it is today?
Yeah, if I could answer that, when I look at, oftentimes we misunderstand sin and righteousness, in the sense that being righteous and treating people how you want to be treated is actually the formula to optimize a civilization, right? So when you lie, when you steal, when you cheat, when you operate and execute your life with immorality, that is actually a way to destroy a civilization. So now we see ubiquitous throughout the earth that nations that have, rose to power through exploitation, governments that have exploited their citizens and told them lies, or even the larger world, or even the world at large that is rooted on a false doctrine of white supremacy, now it's crumbling because it's rooted in a lie. The economic institutions of this world, most of them are rooted in the exploitations of the poor, rooted in stealing the resources of Africa and the darker people of the world. So now the civilization is crumbling at the seams as a result of their injustice.
If I can add to what Brother Shaheed was saying, I was listening to the minister this morning after MGT class, and actually I was listening to the educational paradigm, the challenge, I think it was called, the educational challenge. And he was saying, he said in the Holy Quran, we're taught after difficulty comes ease. Nothing else. No, it's not reversed. He said after difficulty comes ease. And so what Brother Shaheed was saying in terms of sin, we know that what the white man did, we know what he did. We know he's a skunk of the planet Earth. But the minister said in another lecture, he said there has to come a point in time where we stop blaming the white man, because we have taken the white man's mindset and put it amongst ourselves. So if the white man was not here within our own world, what would we do? So why did I bring up the what he brought up, the minister? Why did I bring up the after difficulty comes ease? Because it's harder, as we're taught in drill, to take the right step. It's harder to say, no, let me put this down. It's harder after we did somebody wrong to atone with somebody and say, not you, not atoning with nobody based upon what they did. It's hard to say, this is what I did and I apologize. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in Criterion, and for any guests that are watching, please, if you haven't already, please go view the Criterion, like ASAP. But he said in the Criterion, he said that God is giving a plague for a plague. We have plagued the world, America, with our sins. And so, he, as said earlier by others, he's not holding anything back. So yes, this is a. I'm gonna end right there, but yes.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Brother Shaheed. If anyone else would like to add on before I continue, I would love to hear any more. If not, we can move on to the next question. Brother Fuad, were you going to speak? The Michael.
Well, can you repeat the question in its totality?
Yes, sir. The question at hand is, with growing tensions here in America and the different injustices in our country, why would you say that this country and also the world is in the condition that it is in today?
Brother Shaheed and Sister Sabbath touched on it perfectly. One with what Brother Shaheed was mentioning of immorality, but our own rebellion also, because it's not just the immorality of the past and how it was built, but our own rebellion in terms of getting out of the way of ourselves within recent. Because if we wasn't so rebellious as a people back in the 1950s, 40s, and even 30s, and we did for self and started then now we would not have been in this predicament. So Allah, God, whoever you want to call him, is now forcing us to our knees to submission. And so, like Sister Sabbath was saying, it's easy to point fingers, but in the process of atonement and different things, we have to accept responsibility for self. And now, more so than ever, we have that responsibility and the ability to fix our condition, not to necessarily go and demand anything, because in this time, we're past making demands. This is the time for action, because a demand is something which you're waiting for another individual to give you. But we already know this enemy from their core and their own immorality won't give us anything. So we now must go after what we seek and take it. And not necessarily, it doesn't have to be in a physical way, but we know that a little bit of chaos has to come in the process of order. They say first motion and then order. So right now, what we are seeing, because of the past immoralities and our own rebellion, is the chaos that is necessary to bring upon the reaction towards order.
Thank you for that answer. All of your responses have been so empowering. And I want to ask Sister Nafisa a question, but this question also goes to everyone as well. Since we were speaking on injustices and the different things going on in our communities and society, I wanted to ask you, since you deal with mental health and other health issues like that, I wanted to ask, what is the impact on our mental health as a people? What are some of the things that come from the injustices that are done to us? What impact does that have on our mental health and other issues that may also come from that?
Well, the short answer is that it's completely traumatized us. It's like when you constantly see videos of unarmed Black men being killed, or Black women not receiving justice for being murdered in cold blood in our own homes. That can take a toll on your mental state. Constantly viewing that, you have some people who may just become numb to it because it's so much, seeing that over and over. And then you have some people who are on the opposite end, who are so sick and tired of seeing it that they want to get up and do something. They become activists. They want to make a change. And then you have some people who I would say are probably like me, where you're somewhere in the middle, because to take in that much injustice, it really does do something to you. It really is heartbreaking. So we're taught that, we cannot live without justice. That justice is a prerequisite for life. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that justice is represented by balance. So when justice is denied, ultimately what you have is the balance of the mind being tipped. So we're left feeling completely unbalanced. And what that does when you have been denied justice, it causes us to act out, whether that's in rage and anger. That's why you see so much rioting and looting, and you see the youth are like strapping up. The Black men aren't playing anymore. They're like, enough is enough, because that's what occurs when you haven't been treated fairly and for so long. So it just continues to almost like pile up on, you know, each other. The trauma is doubling and tripling because this is something that hasn't changed. Like, we have not seen a change in our society at all. So when you have the lack of justice, and now in this time coupled with an entire quarantine, it's made us unbalanced to the point where we're no longer able to function properly. And if you look at like the DSM, if I'm sitting here trying to diagnose someone, that's one of the main criteria, is that it has to have the trauma that you've experienced, or the symptoms that you're showing, has to be to the point where you are no longer able to function properly. So we as a people who have that kind of impairment at this point, like literally, I've had people call me and tell me, you know, ask me, Nafisa, what am I supposed to do? I'm afraid to leave my house. I'm afraid I won't make it home. You know, what am I supposed to do? I take the same route to and from work, and I avoid the white neighborhoods because I know that I'm going to get pulled over there. That's a sign of PTSD, to be honest, when you're avoiding something that reminds you of trauma. So now I have to go out my way to get back and forth to work. You know, it's, I'm sorry, I kind of get like a little frustrated in thinking about that. But ultimately, the injustice has just caused our mental health to be completely deteriorated.
That is very true. As personally, I know from just at a young age, being able to watch the news and seeing so much injustice happen to my people and people that look like me, and as a little girl seeing Black women or even young girls have all these things happen to them and no one do anything about it, or the justice system failed them, it is numbing, because once it occurs so many times, it feels like it's something that's natural, like this is supposed to happen. And as a young person, you mentioned being kind of stuck in the middle of wanting to help and then being numb, and that's how I feel. Is I feel like there's something that I should be doing, but because it's so numbing, it's like, where do I begin? Where do I go from here? And so for the young people that feel like that, what are some steps for them to try to get out of that? How can we become unnumb? Like, how can we begin to feel? And this is a question that is for everyone as well. How, as young people, can we begin to do something or to get out of this feeling of there's nothing for me to do, and this is just how life is? How can we teach young people that there's something for them to do and to not feel this way?
That's a lot. I would say first and foremost, just taking the time to take a step back, because it is heavy, and there's only so much that we can take. So sometimes you do have to take a step back and allow yourself to process everything that's going on, because if you just kind of have yourself on overload and you're taking this all in, the result will be this numbing effect, or this rage. Again, there's two spectrums there. So I would say first and foremost, take the time to step back, and then you have to just take a moment to regroup and, you know, look within yourself and really reflect on what it is you can do. I know that plenty of people feel like, you know, there's not much that they can do, but there's something that God put in each of us, some type of talent or gift that we can use to really make the world a more improved place. But it takes time to try and reflect on that and cultivate what that gift is. So the thing is that you don't have to do it alone. Mm-hmm. There are other people like you who want to make a difference. You know, we don't have to take on the world by ourselves and overthrow the government or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you have a whole community of people who feel the same way you do. So taking that time to step back, realize what your purpose is, and then going around like-minded individuals who will help you further cultivate that gift to make a change.
I would also like to add, last night in study group, we're in study guide 18, Rising Above Emotions and to the Thinking of God. And at the very beginning of the criterion, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stated, you know, in terms of talking about Brother Student Minister Abdul Hafiz, may Allah be pleased with his service and his life. but he talked about how, stricken he was naturally so because he's a human being. And he talked about seeing the bigger picture of Allah. And so that's basically where I'm going with this. Because sometimes in the midst of trial, and in 2020, it's back to back to back to back. It's so much. We can not constantly, excuse me. We can sometimes find ourselves being as Job's wife was and cursing God. And so, yes, we're being killed. Yes, we're losing our jobs. I did not go back to the school system this year. I was working with Muskogee County school system, but because of COVID, I did not go back. Yes, we're losing loved ones due to COVID-19. And so, as Sister Nafisa beautifully said, to be able to sit back and in the midst of everything, as the Honorable Minister was Parkin said, and that's not something that's easy to do, but it's necessary to sit back and ask Allah, what is your hand in this? Why are we going through this? And then take it to Master Father Muhammad and make it personal. Why am I going through this? You know how many times me personally, and I'm so thankful for the teachings, and I can only imagine how my brothers and sisters feel without the teachings, because I went through some emotional things this year. Let's just make it plain. We're real, we're human. I did. But to be able to go and have something to reference to, go to my study guides, go to what the Honorable Minister was Farrakhan felt some type of way. And he respectfully asked the God why. So we have to be careful, at the same time respectful, but question the God. It's okay. A math student questions a math teacher to find the answer to a problem. But we are going through this, make no mistake about it. But let us not be like Job's wife and say, why don't you just curse God? And Job's wife did not make it. However, Job, through the trial, when God said, and the minister told us, he said some years ago, this is before I was born, but I constantly lean to deflection. He said, to all my believers, I want you to study and cling to the story of Job. And he told us that we will need it. So to be able to withstand trial and say, you are my people, and I'm putting my people against Satan right now. Like I'm choosing them. Job is not one person, it's a people. To say I'm choosing them and we withstand through the trials of Satan, that's something heavy. So I would say withstand. I would say question God, and we know that God is the God of love, and the God of love is action, love is duty, love does not come without reasoning. So to sit back, breathe, relinquish, study to show that self-approved. I had to do it so much. Pray, be on your prayer rug, ask Allah, talk to him like he is your friend, because he is, and he will answer you. That's what the Holy Quran says. He says, call to me, I will answer you. If we don't do that, I promise you, we will be in peril, because me, Sister Sabbath, with these life-giving teachings, was feeling some type of way. But if I let go of these teachings, I will be in such a worse state. And I already was feeling some type of way. So this has brought me so much peace. So, question Allah in a respectful manner, call to him and study to bring yourself peace. These teachings are life-giving for a reason, and it's been able to get me through them.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. I believe, did someone else wanted to add on to this conversation?
I can add something. I think it's about knowing our identity. In Closing the Gap, a book written by the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, on page 205, he writes that freedom, justice, and equality are essential to life. On page 206, he writes that a thing is justified by being itself. Being itself means developing in accord with its nature, with the nature of its creation. When it develops along the natural lines for which it was created, it fulfills its purpose for creation thereby justifying itself. So we have to know who we are. We got to know our intended purpose for creation in order to be satisfied with life and justify our existence. So in the Holy Quran, it refers to man as Allah's Khalifa. Khalifa is an Arabic word that in English it is vicegerent, or one who is delegated with power from an authority as successor. So if we are that, the ones who are delegated by power from the Creator, and the Bible says that man is made in the image and likeness of God, and that we are supposed to be the stewards of the earth, if that is our identity, then we will be at peace when we justify our existence by being in alignment with our nature. So I believe it's 2013 Savior's Day. The minister said, he said, if we want to be treated as equals, then let us make ourselves equals by being producers. So we have to embrace the reality that Brother Fard spoke of when he opened up. It's not that you said that if we don't separate, we're going to be a messed up people, but that's not really the reality. And it's some totality. It's the fact that it's separation or death. That's what we're seeing right now. So it's not, when we embrace our identity as the natural stewards of the earth, made in the image and likeness of God, and then we unify amongst ourselves and begin to work towards that, we will be at peace knowing that we're taking autonomy over our lives, that we're taking reality into our own hands, and we are changing our reality with actual action. So being on a panelist like this with so many great young people who are actually doing great things is really the solution. That's the inspiration that some of us who are younger and we are suffering through, the reality that we find ourselves in. We have to find a way to actually unify amongst ourselves and change our reality for the better, because we're not the curse of Ham. That's not our identity. That we're just perpetually stuck as the burden bearers of the Caucasian race, meant to be stuck in a miserable, deplorable condition for all eternity. That's not our reality. And we can change our reality by taking action, by qualifying ourselves, by fulfilling our potential, and therefore justifying our existence. And as Sister Nafisa said, we don't have to do it alone, and we can't do it alone, but together we can make it a reality.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. That was, listening to all of your answers, it makes me reflect more on not just myself and what I could be doing, but what I can try to help do with other people as a community, as a nation, how our condition as people can change with different things that we do together. But thank you all for your answers. And that actually takes me to my next question, dealing with our condition. What do you think justice for Black people in America would look like or should look like? What does actual justice look like? And what do you think needs to happen for us to obtain justice? Yes, sir. So if anyone would like to answer that question, go ahead and unmute yourself.
I can go if no one else wants to. I think justice was laid out perfectly in the 1930s by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad when he revealed a program, when he established a redemptive and restorative program to heal the condition of his people, because we got to understand that justice is restoration, that if you had damaged something, justice would be repairing it. So if you stole something, justice will be giving it back in the same state that it was in. So we as a people, we've been kidnapped, we've been dehumanized for centuries. But before we went through what we have gone through, we were a thriving people with our own language, our own culture, our own way of life, our own perception of God and self. So until that is restored in us, we have not received justice. So justice cannot come in the form of a pacification via painting Black Lives Matter on streets in DC. Justice cannot come in the form of taking down the Confederate flag or Confederate statues. Justice can only come when the condition that we were in prior to the injustice, until that is restored. So based off that line of reasoning, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad laid out a program of self-development for us, and also gave to the government of the United States and what the Muslims want a form of justice. And he writes in point number 4, what the Muslims want. We want our people in America whose parents or grandparents were descendants from slaves to be allowed to establish a separate state or territory of their own, either on this continent or elsewhere. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to provide such land and that that area must be fertile and minerally rich. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to maintain and supply our needs in this separate territory for the next 20 to 25 years until we are able to produce and supply our own needs. So that is the only form of justice that I will accept, because that within that, it will give us everything that we need to return unto our own in a condition that we were in prior to what has transpired over these past few centuries.
I would like to add, for any Lost Found viewers that may be viewing our Lost Found Nation of Islam, the Honorable Mentalist Farrakhan said in that same lecture that I spoke of earlier, that educational paradigm, he said a person that won't treat you right will certainly not teach you right. That's a saying that has been going on in the Nation of Islam for some time. And very plainly, if they won't even tell you the true color of Jesus, and they have not come up on the forefront and said, oh, never mind, I'm sorry. Oh, by the way, they still have not done that. So if a person won't treat you right, they're not going to teach you right. Very plainly to state, we cannot, there's no way that we can get justice in a country that was built off of the backs of slaves. That's injustice already. You're asking to get justice from the White House when we built the White House for nothing? For nothing. Not a penny. So, one, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said, he said, come out of her, my people. Plain and simple. We can't ask for justice in a state that was not built for us to have justice in the first place. Plain and simple, it's time to separate. And I'm so thankful to see, as Brother Shahid said, the beautiful minds on this platform, because it shows that we are on the road, on the start to getting ready to own our own civilization. We can't do it with the civilization at all. So praise be to Allah.
I just want to say, first and foremost, I think, and when Sister Sabbath said the word civilization, this kind of brought me to this point. The Black woman is the mother of civilization.
That's right.
She, and just from what I've studied of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and everything that Brother Shahid and Sister Nafisa were saying, if you cannot respect and protect the Black woman, the person or the entity that gives life to the civilization itself, you will have nothing to get justice for. The Black woman is almost like a battery in a sense. And the phone is that civilization. You cannot use that phone or get anything from that phone unless you have a good battery in there. And I know that my brother Shahid can appreciate that analogy, being an electrical engineer. But with all of the disrespect and all of the treatment that we give to the Black woman, that is the first thing we need to do. Just respect and protect the Black woman. And I can understand, seeing what we see in the media now with our entertainers and how they're treating each other, they're not the best examples. So we need to look at examples of pure respect and pure treatment, pure proper treatment of the Black woman. And no one is a better example of that than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. No one is a better example of that than the mighty FOY, who we see respect and protect the Black woman. So that is, to me, the first step that we should take, being able to respect the life that gave us life. And then we will really be the justice. I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
No, I'm sorry. I wanted to add, if it's okay, Sister Nadir, based upon what Brother Tariq said.
Yes, Lord, go ahead.
Just one last thing, and in this conversation of separation, and really coming off of what Brother Tariq beautifully said, it does not make sense to say, okay, yeah, let's get our own land, let's have our own business, and basically, as he said, carry the same mindset. So if we're going to leave the white man, we need to leave the white man as well as his mindset. We need to leave him as well as how he's treated us and how we continue to treat one another. It don't make sense to say, let's go separate, but Junebug just shot Boo Boo down the street. It don't make sense. So we need to leave, as the Bible says, take off the old man or and put on the new man. So thank you, Brother Tariq, for that beautiful point.
Praise be due to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. I wanted to, and in order to move into my next question, Sister Sabbath and Brother Shahid, your answers kind of take me into my next question. For both of you mentioned how separation is needed in order for us to get justice. And so to take us to my next question, do you believe as a people that we may be afraid to separate from the white man, or how are we as a people in dealing with separation?
My answer for that is it's a yes and no. And the reason why I say yes and no is because as of recently, we've been seeing, especially in the youth, man, we've been seeing a fear dripping from our Black youth. I was talking to my grandmother recently, and we were talking about events where two Black men, young Black men came out of nowhere, and there was some, police doing nothing. Okay. They shot and killed the police officer. Would our grandparents do that? Not all of them. In fact, we are showing statistics where a lot of our fathers and mothers, may Allah be pleased with them, because they only did best how they knew how. But they'll grab our hand and say, "Oh, look away," just for the fear of not being killed. Don't do this, just for the fear of not being killed. And now we see our young people, they're like, man, I'm tired. They're visibly tired. We have the sayings on social media to prove that I'm not like my grandparents. I will beat you, for the sake of not cussing. So that type of language, when I was in college, it was all over the place. They would not take nothing from any white student that was there. I'm so serious. It was like, do you know who I am? Like, they would talk to them in that manner. And it was amazing to see such strength out of tiredness. So I say all that to say yes and no. No, because the minister said in Criterion that we are now 100% dissatisfied. No from our youth, but I'll say it in the words of Mother Tanetta. Mother Tanetta said, may Allah be pleased with her, that not everybody's going to make it. And that everybody, that can be young or old, it doesn't matter. Anybody that is keeping on to the mindset of being within this country and trying to compromise, whether we are Muslim and have these teachings and still compromise based upon our actions, whether we are Christians, no matter our background, if we are trying to compromise with this world, we won't make it. It does not matter who we are. It's our actions. Actions speak louder than words. So those who want to compromise, who want to stay within this world, do have a fear. And so, you see it growing within our youth, who many of who don't. But I will say there is some fear left, and we can see it visibly.
I'd like to add to that. I agree with Sister Sabbath. I believe that, many of us are at the point where we are fed up and we are ready to separate. But then you have some of us who do live in fear. When all your life this is all you've known is, dependent on the white man, it's like you can't even fathom what life would look like without him or without his system. Some of us cannot fathom what that may look like. And so one might compare it to being in a relationship with a domestic, in a domestic violence type situation. You hear of the battered woman syndrome, where pretty much a woman has developed a sense of learned helplessness after being beaten and abused by her abuser for so long that she feels that she cannot escape and that she deserves that kind of treatment. So for us as Black people who have been abused and battered for so long, some of us have been conditioned to think that we cannot function without the white man. Or you can even compare it to that, the Stockholm syndrome, where you fall in love with your abuser or your kidnapper. That's like some of us as Black people. We've been beaten by white supremacy for 400 plus years. So to even begin to think of life without your abuser, it's not something that some of us can fathom. So in that, there is a fear for some of us, but it's just simply because we've been conditioned. We're taught that we like the devil because the devil gives us nothing. That's a prime example of that. So in order to even be able to envision what separation would look like, we have to first start to revamp and kind of undo what's been done to us for so long. So it may take time for some of us to really see. And that's why, we're the minister said, Allah's going to keep allowing them to continue to beat us and whip us, because it's going to take being fed up for us to finally see that separation is the only answer to end this toxic relationship between Black and white.
I definitely agree. Oh, go ahead, Brother Tariq.
No, go ahead, sis. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that I definitely agree with you both with the yes and no, because I'm not sure if you've seen it, but there was this young girl, couldn't have been more than 7 years old, and she was marching and protesting with her family and a bunch of other people. And it went viral because of how young she looked and how young she was. But to see the fearlessness in her at such a young age not only gives me hope for this generation, but it's empowering. It makes me want to do something as well. But then I also see other people who they don't have the do for self mindset. They haven't had the separation mindset instilled in them yet either. And so you can see some fear or if not fear, it's this state of comfort. They're so comfortable in their condition, they're not in the mood or in the feeling of getting out of it. Because it takes an energy and it takes a strength to get out of the situation you're in once you are comfortable, or once you are so oppressed that you stay in the situation you're in because you don't know anything else. So I definitely agree with you both. And Brother Tariq, I would love to hear your add-on to the question.
Yes, ma'am. We as a nation have to accept a certain level of responsibility for why our people have not completely separated from this enemy. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave us so many different tools to use to help build our environments, to create the environments needed so that our people can separate from this enemy comfortably. Well, not so much comfortably, but in a manner in which they can survive. The 9 ministries, the different types of things that can come from that. We got to work it harder. Just think about how many times the 9 ministries comes up in our day-to-day conversation. It doesn't come up a lot. Just talking to each other, whether it be, at the mosque or in a community when we're engaging with the people, we're not promoting the solutions enough that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave to us. And I'm not saying that those of us on this panel are not, or that members of the Nation of Islam aren't, but we have to be a little bit more assertive and a little bit more aggressive in terms of the tools and resources that we have as a nation so that our people can separate from this enemy. Separation or death, facts, but what are they separating to or to come to? We have to bring them to something. The Nation of Islam, it has to be a nation. I'm not saying that it's not. What I'm saying is that the Nation of Islam has to get to a point where our people can get away from this enemy and be able, okay, we have a nation of our own. Great. I'm done with y'all. I'm tired of y'all. We're through. I'm going over to where the place that God has made for us. So just being able to stress those 9 ministries, work those 9 ministries, do the things that we're doing that match each 9 ministry even harder so that our people can have something to come to.
Right. I agree with Tyreek wholeheartedly in the sense that we are supposed to collectively be the vanguard in a sense of being in the leadership of really bearing witness to divine revelation in the sense that we have to work out the solutions that we are talking about ourselves and be leaders in making the new world. So to answer the question directly, I think I agree that every generation is supposed to advance forward and take it to the next level. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said that this is the greatest generation that we've produced since we've been on these shores because we're supposed to be, because we have the lessons or the failures of the previous generations to stand on. Not that we're just born better, but we are the inheritors, the beneficiaries of the sacrifice of those that came before us. So while the previous generations may have inclined not to separate, a lot of the youth of today are more willing to try something new because integration has evidently failed. So I think that a lot of younger people are ready, but then furthermore, that is, I agree with Tyreek that we have to personally make it our center focus to work out, our own businesses, acquire our own land, and unify amongst ourselves and actually build the reality that we're talking about because it is totally feasible. I mean, people are doing it now. Black people are separating as we speak. There's an article that went viral of what was it, 19 families that came together and bought like 90 acres. I think.
Yeah,
right. So people are doing it. It's happening. We just got to do it. And as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught us, we had to think for the whole why we do it. So it's cool for me to have farmland on my own and produce my own food, but I got to do it in a way that I'm providing for my community and my people at large. And we all, with that mindset, we come together to build a functional, autonomous nation, rooted in freedom, justice, and equality.
Yes, sir. And I wanted to touch on something that Brother Tariq mentioned. You mentioned the 9 ministries, and that actually was bringing me into my next question. For those who are listening and watching that may not know what some of our 9 ministries are, I'm going to list a few. We have spiritual development, agriculture, defense. We have science and technology, arts and culture, and a few more that we have. And I just wanted to ask you all, dealing with our 9 ministries, how can we use our 9 ministries for separation? And what is the importance of using our 9 ministries? And what role does the 9 ministries play within our separation?
If you look at the 9 ministries, and you listed a few of them, if you look at the 9 ministries, each ministry correlates to a problem that we suffer from as a nation and as a people. Everything that the open enemy uses to oppress us or do anything to us involves those 9 ministries. We got agriculture with GMOs, science and technology when it comes to developing vaccines, education. I can go on. So these 9 ministries are pretty much the antidote for what we were given from our enemy. So, but I'm not gonna, I can talk about the 9 ministries for days, but I'm gonna let my panelists talk about it, because just being time sensitive.
I do want to add, and in terms of, I guess, speaking on the ministry that Allah has allowed, blessed, and guided me to step into, which is the Ministry of Education. And, I want to speak on a standpoint from formerly working in, Satan's school system. And when you work in Satan's school system, as a Muslim, and with these life-giving teachings, you can see the film that they have around the system to degrade and to dampen literally every Black girl and boy within that system. And so when I worked, I originally worked at Rigdon Road Elementary in Columbus, Georgia, from Muskogee County, and it's a war field. I mean, it's literally a war field. You come in every day and you see the result that the black communities that we have been pushed into have on these little boys and girls. I had one little boy, I won't say any names, but one little boy that I had personal charge over, certain individualized students, whatever that means. They would give a teacher caretaker to help mold, to get them into the regular classroom, right? And, he would come in every day and he was, I guess, deemed a troublemaker, what have you. And he came in one day and he told me, he said, Miss Muhammad, and one, let me just say the blessing for a young little boy or girl to say the name Muhammad, that alone, just to say it, we don't know how much of an impact that us being Muslim in these institutions has on somebody's life in the future. But anyway, for this little boy to come and tell me, Miss Muhammad, I'm going through some things. And I said, what are you going through, baby? And he says, my mother is not here with me. My aunt hates me and tells me I'm no good every day. But this same little boy is deemed a troublemaker, not only by his personal family, but by the school system around him. And then to isolate him and not put him along with other great minds that may have had a better background as a Black child, to isolate him and then go and teach in history class that, oh, all the greats were white. And this is the crap that we have to spew. So in terms of separation, in terms of the educational system, and I don't know, like I told you all in the beginning, I had no desire years ago to be in the educational system, but I knew by seeing the pain that my peers went through, Muslim peers, that my peers went through by going to public school. I sat on my prayer rug and I literally cried. I was bawling to Master Father Muhammad. I said, I promise you I'll make a school. I told him that. I didn't know it was going to happen this year. I didn't know up until this year that it was going to happen this year. Praise be to Allah. But I promised him. And I'll end for the sake of being brief, but this is something that is really dear on my heart. Education in America is literally surrounded, as the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said, to keep us a slave. It's not meant to make us leaders. It's not. And it hurts to see these little boys and girls that are black-skinned children think that they have no way out. So to have somebody come and tell them, no, you are our God, regardless of what the curriculum says. I'm going to sit here and tell you, I don't care that there's no God in the school system. You are a God because God means force and power. That's it. We can take it scientifically if you want to. Fight me. So education is a must, because Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, and I'll end here, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that if you don't feed life and give purpose, your education ain't worth a damn. I don't care if your curriculum gets you into Harvard, because there are people that have gone to Harvard and commit suicide. So education is warfare. Business is warfare. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that the first few letters in business is busy. And if you're not busy, he asks the question, what are you doing? So I'll end there.
Powerful. I'm not sure if anybody wants to add on, but Sister Nafisa, were you trying to add on?
Yes, ma'am. I'll just speak from the perspective of the Ministry of Health and Human Services, which is where my field would really fall under, because it includes mental well-being. And many people feel that mental health isn't real. It's not a real thing, especially in the Black community. There's a certain stigma surrounding mental health. But in my opinion, you can't really be Black in America and not suffer from some kind of mental health issue. I'm not saying necessarily a diagnosable disorder, but the amount of emotional and psychological and physical trauma that our people have suffered from, we're bound to need some kind of help. And that's why the minister introduced Dianetics. So we can't sit here and talk about building a new nation and separating if we don't first start within ourselves. This has been said earlier that some of us have kind of taken on the white man's mindset. That's why you hear about, coons and Uncle Toms and all of that. And some of us really do hate our own selves. So we can't talk about producing a new nation if we're not first working on the renewal of our mind. At this point, there's so much trauma in our community that we are literally committing suicide at crazy numbers, and the numbers are doubling as time goes on, specifically actually with our youth. I mean, people under 20, the second leading cause of death among Black youth under 20 is suicide. So that should tell us something right there. The fact that there's 5 million of us who suffer from an actual mental health illness, but 70% of us are not getting treatment, that should tell us something right there. So in order to, really begin to separate, we have to first work on our own selves, first work on our own mindset, and just start to separate these negative thoughts, these white supremacist thoughts that many of us have been conditioned and have been forced to kind of take on for ourselves. So I think that mental health is actually, as all of the ministries are, but this is key, that if we want to see a true nation of our own, what do we look like starting a nation and we still got all this trauma and things that we haven't dealt with? And, we would ultimately be creating a world that we're trying to escape from. So before we can truly have a productive nation of our own, we have to first start with the renewal of our mind.
Yes, ma'am. I definitely agree. I wanted to touch on something that Sister Sabbath was speaking on with dealing with education. I'm only 18, but going through school and going to the different things that I've been through from K through 12 and to where I am now, I've experienced so many different things dealing with the mindset of young people when it comes to education. And my mom is a kindergarten teacher. So I was blessed to kind of go to her school and work with some of her children. And when I say it's so easy to spot the young children in the classroom who have the worst home life, I hate to say it like that, but it is so easy to spot it and to see the condition of the different young people within the classroom by not only the way that they are dressed, but how their hair is kept, or the condition of the work that is in their book bag and how they come in the morning. And they'll be the happiest child, but their learning capabilities are not where they're supposed to be by the standard of the school system. So they're deemed not as smart, or they're not as good as the child who has a better home life. And so because of their home and socioeconomic condition, they're not as good as the next child. And being in the classroom with these children, they're both the same age, same mentality. They love each other. They're very happy, but they're treated differently based off of something that they cannot control. So I definitely agree with Sister Sabbath and with Sister Nafisa, what you were speaking about mental health, seeing the same children that cannot control their conditions grow up, and their mental health and their mental state is not the same based off of the same conditions that they cannot control. So as a people and dealing with the 9 ministries, Separation will not be able to happen if we don't look at our mental state and the education of our children and take them out of public school. Or if we keep them in public school, we have to monitor their education, be present in their lives, and genuinely stick with them and help them. And before I go to the next question, I want to say it is our responsibility to help each other's children, because with the children that I see in these classrooms who come from backgrounds that they may not have the best conditions, their parents are not always around. But is it our job to say, oh, that's not my child, so that's not my problem? Is it not our responsibility to take care of our future generation when we see there is a problem? So it is very important that we not only, when we witness the issues that are going on in our communities and with our children, with dealing with education and mental health, that we not only just say we see the problem, but we help deal with it as well. I'm not sure if any of the other panelists want to add on. Okay, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I do. You know, and I love what you said, Sister Nadira. Thank you for bringing that to light. Because too many times, I don't care whether you're a teacher or not, too many times do you as an individual, do we as individuals give up on the children around us? And you know, more than likely we give up on the children around us because we gave up on ourselves. So when they say we can't, oh, I can't do this, we agree. We agree right with them. And you know, sometimes we may not say, oh, I agree, but we agree by saying nothing. And so as a teacher, it's not, I've seen so many crap teachers that need to give up their profession and go kill somebody in the military. That's how they act with our children. Like, why are you a teacher? So to be a teacher, to be allowed by Master Father Muhammad to be given permission to be over somebody's mind? You mean the same mind that says, oh, I want to lift my right hand up? My mind just did that. I'm over somebody's mind. I am over somebody's actions. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, he said, whoever controls the diameter of your knowledge controls the circumference of your activity. That's a heavy thing to be a teacher. So for a child to go through some type of trauma, and I'm not even saying the know-how, I'm saying you don't even try to fix it. You don't even try to see, you don't try to be that one that says, come here, I got you. Even if you don't know what to say. Oh, you're going through this, you're going through that. You may not be able to pinpoint it, but to say at the very least, I have you. If no one has you in your household, I do. I'm sorry. I don't mean to get passionate, but it's a shame. The people that we have in the educational field, and I mean both white and black. The skin don't matter. That's why we're taught we don't hate the white man for his skin tone. We hate him for his nature, and that we've adopted that mindset. A skin don't mean a damn. It's the mindset that we carry on. So thank you, Sister Nadir.
Praise you. I appreciate your passion, because passion creates a different type of conversation, and that's the type of conversation that we do need to have. So I appreciate the passion that you have for your work and the things that you do, especially when it comes to your students. Would anyone else like to add on to this beautiful conversation?
Not to get sidetracked off the question, but build off of Sister Sabbath's point. You know, the lack of real teachers nowadays really comes from the lack of true love for the individuals that they're teaching. Because as we're taught, love is God and God is love, which shows us the very power of which the own essence of love comes out of. But more importantly to you and I, love is duty. So what is our duty to these children? What is our duty to our brother and sister that we sit next to? Our duty is to assist them in making them better each and every day. So for a lot of these teachers that are present now in the world, and especially in America, that the love that they have in their heart isn't strong enough, because a lot of times it's only the love of the money, or it's the love of the consistent paycheck to be able to walk in every single day to the elementary school, the grammar school, the high school, come in every day, do the same thing. And when the students come to them after class, they give them an attitude. Or when the student comes to them, not for extra credit, but for assistance, they give them an attitude, because they don't truly love or have a strong enough duty to the children in which they're teaching. And the same goes for every aspect of every ministry. We have to have a love for that which we do, whether it be education, whether it be health, mental health, whether it be commerce or whatever. You have to have a love that gives you that puts a dutiful spirit onto you to be able to get the job done. Because the thing about it is that lack of love, properly used, is the reason why we're in this condition still. Because we don't have enough love for our brother and our sister that's next to us, or our children that's coming up under us, to be able to say, oh no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to make the sacrifice today to make sure that tomorrow can be better for them. Tomorrow can be better for her. Tomorrow can be better for him. So in every aspect of this push for separation, at the center of it and the root of it has to be love. Because if it's anything else, it's not a great enough creative force to produce it. Because the greatest creative force in the universe is love. So if out of this creative push for separation, if it's not love, then it won't last. And if we're trying to build something, we have to make it to last. And when I say last, it has to go into the hereafter, because if we're not setting it up for the hereafter, then it's not meant for the time.
Right, and I just would like to just to follow up with what bro was saying in regards to loving what we do. That's why there is multiple ministries in different fields and categories of life, because all of us are different with different propensities to master different fields. So when we are able to be ourselves and do what we love and do it excellently, then we can come together and build something truly great. So, in the educational field, there's going to be people there that deal with mental health. There's going to be people there that teach science and technology. And in reality, it's the cohesive integration of all the different ministries that builds, real true systems. So just on that point, there's space for everyone, that's going to eventually listen to this panel discussion. There's space for you in a nation of your own. So whether you are into science, any category of science, there's space for you. We have my brother from Baltimore, Brother Jabril. He got his PhD in molecular human genetics. We have Tyreek, that's on the call. That's a biologist. I know other brothers that are engineers and civil engineering and material science. We have doctors. We have people. We got lawyers. We have people in every single category of life of note. We got artists. We got rappers. We have everything. But it's us working in our gifts and our talents together systematically that can really build something that can really build the kingdom that we seek.
Yes, sir. That kind of brings me into my next question. With everything that everyone said, dealing with the different ministries and how it affects our youth, and especially the younger generations, even after us, I need to ask this one question about separation. What is the importance of young people having the mindset of separation and understanding the topic of separation? Because as we continue to redevelop and have other children and grow in generations, what is the importance of them having that mindset? Of course, us having this discussion, we have it, but how can we, what is the importance of passing that on?
Well, that takes me back to what was said earlier and how finite our individual being is. We can only do so much. And as the Supreme Captain of the Nation of Islam, Mustafa Farrakhan, often says, we come from an infinity of time and we will eventually return to that same infinity. So we have to be the strong link in the chain that pushes it on. And this lifetime that we have, we may not live 1,000 years, we may not live 5, we may not live 100. However, everything that we do now has to be of importance in terms of passing on our legacy and our spirit to tomorrow or tomorrow's next generation. Which brings us to the conversation. We're talking about separation today, but if we aren't, educating those right up under us and under those, then what is the importance of it going to be 100 years from now? It'll be a wasted conversation. So first, like the question you asked, separation is something that occurs mentally. You cannot physically separate from an open enemy that has been present for 400 years without having a mental separation from everything that they've inflicted on you. And that is one of the most important aspects of what Sister Nafisa was talking about in mental health. If we haven't properly recovered, if we haven't properly addressed or atoned, like Sister Sabbath said, everything that's been done to us for 400 years and or help to assist this next generation in doing that same thing and facing trials, then separation in terms of the physical reality of it will be a far hope. However, we have to instill the mindset. We have to instill the spirit. We have to instill the love for one another. Because if I truly love each and every single one of you, then I'm going to push for separation every single day of my life. Because I know without a shadow of a doubt, we cannot exist under this enemy. We have to exist in our own nation. And so that same love and that same spirit that each of us have, we have to reinvigorate that or instill that within these younger generations. Every time I look at my little brother Rahman and my little sister Ali, and I see how joyous they are. I see them smile and I see them laugh and I see them excited to learn. And then it took me back to when I entered the public schools of Chicago, how I won't say not excited, but not happy, but I wasn't the same individual that I was coming in. We have to keep that strong knit, that strong bond between us and them, and then bond the mindset of the two so that we can make as much as progress as possible, because we ain't going to be here forever. All we can do is pray that our spirit in the work that we do can take on into the next generation so that they can continue this fight into separation.
I definitely agree with that last statement. Making sure what we do, they can take it on into the future. Because what is the reason? I mean, what is the meaning behind what we're doing? If what we are doing in our lives aren't going to be passed on to the future generations, is it worth it? If we aren't working towards building something for our future generations, what are we doing with our lives? So, and that kind of brings me into my last question. But before I go into that, I would like to ask the audience, if you have any questions at this time, please put them in the chat so that way we can ask them before we start to close. But my last question is, dealing with everything that we're doing, and that everyone on the panel has a special area that they are very proficient in. I wanted to ask you, in your individual areas, especially, how can young people, and not even just young people, but people in general, those are interested in your particular fields that you are working in, how can they learn more and become successful in your areas? And then not just necessarily in education, engineering, or health. How can they grow in different skills as well? How can we make our people better? And what can they do to get somewhere like you in your field?
Well, I guess I'll start if no one else wants to. But one, I would say a teacher is anyone with the mindset to help, with the, as Brother Fraud said, the characteristic of love and the desire to see our future do better, can be a teacher. For me, I started again with before I had the love for teaching. Well, before I recognized, let me say, before I recognized my love for teaching, I started tutoring. But I will say, study yourself, and be honest with your critique of yourself. And if teaching is what you love to do, start somewhere. Don't not start. Start somewhere. And then on the professional side of it, in order to credentials and whatnot, go to school, but go with knowing your purpose and not being pulled within the cesspools of what college is. And I say that so very strongly because it got a certain point in my Muslim life in order to upkeep that which I love and that which I know is life for me, which is Islam. I said, I'm not going back to the campus. So I did online courses, as many as I could take, because college is a cesspool of filth. But as the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said, if you're going to go to school, go and get what you need and come out to help your community. So I will say that one, start somewhere. Be honest with yourself. If that's what you want to do, start somewhere. Teach. Right? Just say, hey, let's go over this. Teach, tutor. You can tutor. In Georgia, you don't have to have a degree to tutor. You can tutor. And then if you want to, for the letters behind it, the credentials, what have you, go to school, but go knowing your purpose and not to party and come out clean and do what you need to do for your nation.
Thank you so much for that answer. We have another question, but before I get to that, would anyone else like to answer?
Well, I guess I'll go.
I'll answer.
Sister Nafisa, you could go first.
I'm sorry. I'm bad.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? Okay. I was going to say, as a therapist, before you can help others, you have to first work on yourself and try to help yourself. So for me personally, I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for my parents, raising me in the nation, if it weren't for Almighty God, Allah, His messenger, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And the teachings that I have been given have helped me to work towards self-improvement. So I don't feel that I could truly be a benefit to my community if I did not have these teachings, if I weren't constantly working on self first and foremost. But if you have the desire to help others in this manner, I would say first, seek out treatment yourself. You may have some biases and some traumas that, you need to kind of work out. And I'm saying that, from my perspective as well. And then from there, I would say just start to do research because there's so many avenues of counseling that you could go into. There's mental health counseling, school counseling if you want to work in the educational system. There's marriage and family counseling, couples counseling. There's so many different avenues. So just taking the time to do that research and figure out which route you want to go into. And then also just speaking to someone who's already in that field to make sure it's something that you really want to do. And I'm open to, if anyone has any questions, you can most definitely reach out to me in regard to that. But then from there, you would have to map out a plan of how to accomplish that. It does require schooling. So, just kind of mapping out a plan from there to get your education. And if you desire to also be licensed in your state, looking up those requirements as well. So if anyone has any questions, though, please feel free to reach out.
All right, thank you, ma'am, for your answer. I as an engineering student, hearing other women speak on education and the importance of getting education and trying to further yourself in some way, whether it's college or just research or some way of learning, is very empowering, and I love to hear it. So thank you so much, Brother Fraud. I think you wanted to add on.
Well. Man, it's a lot. It's a lot. So in particular regards to the youth, because the youth oftentimes, and when I say the youth, not just us, but the younger generation, younger than us, often look towards us for, guidance, because they don't necessarily want to go to the older crowd because they feel as though they'll be judged or something along the sorts. The biggest thing, like my peers had said, was, first you have to know yourself, and you have to attempt to learn yourself and deal with what the trials of life come with. Because the longer we as youth attempt to run away from not only ourselves, but who we are, is the longer we'll suffer. Because, in this world, especially that's filled with so much in social media, so many expectations, so many false representations, we often have a misconception, and especially the younger generations, of, I want to be like this, I want to be so-and-so, I want to be that. But in reality, you yourself are the greatest creation that Allah could have made you. Your individuality is like no other. You are one out of trillions upon trillions upon trillions of individuals. Allah, God, Yahweh, whatever you want to call them, He created you, one of one. Your mind, there's none like it. There may be one that looks like you or that has ever looked like you, but I guarantee you all had a different DNA bracket set up. So that's a slight enough difference to make you one of one. So I'm saying all of this to say to my youth and brothers and sisters, accept you for who you are, and accept your brother and sister for who they are. We're taught in the Nation of Islam, accept your own and be yourself. Accept who Allah made you to be, and be who He made you to be, which means accept all of the shortcomings, all of the faults, all of the drama that you may think was forced into your life. It was all put into your life on the perfect date at the perfect time to lead you past those experiences into something greater. So just think over that while you think over and analyze your life and what you want to do. And me in particular, it took me a very long time to realize what I wanted to do. Growing up, I wanted to be an engineer because I watched the movie Iron Man when it first came out, and I said, man, I'm gonna build me an Iron Man suit one day. And so I said, I'm gonna be an engineer. But however, I wasn't necessarily in accordance with who I was, because I wanted to constantly reflect what I saw. So I kept changing. I said, man, I'm not gonna be an engineer. I'm gonna be a video game designer. So I went to school for video game design before high school. I said, I don't want to do this no more. So I kept bouncing around until it finally settled down. Once I settled down in the Nation, not only what I went to school for in terms of business administration, that's cool. That's an aspect of it. But I went to school for business administration so I can network with people, because I love networking and I love talking and I love helping people, which brings me to what I'm doing here today. By the grace of Allah, I pray that each one of us is sharing something that matters not only to us, but can have the ability to change each one of you all's lives, or at least an aspect of it. So what I do is, here in the Nation, I'm not only in the student ministry, but I strive to travel around the country helping out where I can in terms of, community work, in terms of different things. When we was in Louisville, Kentucky a few weeks ago with Tamika Mallory, we assisted not only on security, but assisted with giving away the food boxes, 1,500 to 2,000 food boxes to the community, because they was in need. And we assist in empowering our sisters and our brothers. So all of this that I'm saying that I do, each and every individual can do. And each and every individual that's in here right now, whatever they're doing, you can do as well. But don't do it out of trying to be like them. Do it because you have a love for it, because you see it within yourself.
I would just say, if you are in the STEM field and you are in agreement that you want to leverage your intelligence and your activity towards, us being progressive, building a nation of our own, and regardless of what field it is in particular, always feel free to hit me or Tyreek up, because that's what we're focused on. Me and Tyreek work together a lot on different projects, so you can contact us directly. And we got some big things in the work. We're not just on here talking idly. We actually are trying to strive to implement what we're saying and being productive and leveraging our intelligence to build actual solutions to some of the problems that we face. So definitely feel free to hit us up.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. We have one last question that came from the chat, and hopefully we could kind of quickly answer this because we are on our time. So I will add it to the screen. So the question is, how do you deal with the pressure of the world trying to be upright in such a wicked world? So if someone could quickly answer this question, I would greatly appreciate it. Whoever wants to go ahead.
I'll just say very quickly, it is very difficult to be a light in the darkness with all the pressure that is in the world of evil. But the minister said that you have to match external pressure with internal pressure. So there's only one source of strength, which is Almighty God, Allah. So you have to draw on the source of strength and just be a conduit of that spirit. And, it's good to have conversations like this with other people that are striving to do the same thing. So, we're all striving. None of us are angels from the mothership. We all came up out of America. We were all born in America in this day and time. So we all have gone through the vicissitudes of life and struggle. But, you just got to keep striving to be the best version of yourself and keep moving forward.
If I can add just really quickly, I'll be very brief. Brother Nori said, the next 10 years of your life will be determined by 3 things. Be determined by the books you read, the people you keep around you, and the third thing is the application of those 2 put together. So one, know your purpose, know what you're here to do. If you say you want to be upright, then be upright and keep that purpose in mind. 2, what are you feeding yourself? And 3, the people around you. I know if I had Negroes around me, Sister Sabbath would not be here with my headpiece. Praise is a lot. So, be cognizant of yourself and your atmosphere.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you both for answering that question. I think you both did that justice. So we will begin to close out our discussion for today. I thank you all for joining. To the audience, thank you so much for tuning in for the full 2 hours. We all appreciate it. And to our panel, thank you so much for dedicating your time to help have this discussion, because it is needed and is very valuable and important to have, especially in the time that we are in. So if all hearts and minds are clear, Brother Farah, would you mind closing us out in prayer?
Absolutely. May everyone assume the position which is most comfortable to them. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyak na'budu wa iyyak nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Oh Allah, we say this prayer today out of gratitude for you. We say this prayer today out of gratitude for all that you have done, not only for our individual beings, but for the whole of humanity today. We ask you, O Allah, to forgive us for our faults and our shortcomings. And we thank you for all the trials that you put in our life that's led us to today, because you never allowed us to get stuck on yesterday, and you've completely allowed us to be free today, to live a righteous life. And we say this prayer today in your name, Mustafa Muhammad, and in the name of the Christ, your messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we say this in the name of our divine warner, guide, leader, teacher, and father, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who I bear witness is the Messiah the world has long awaited for 2,000 years. And in those names we pray. Ameen.
All praises be to Allah. Thank you all for tuning in. May Allah continue to bless you all. And with that, we end our broadcast. Thank you again.
Yes.